And just like that, the story begins. The first thing that I like to do when starting any new Out of the Park Baseball 20 save is to go into league settings, rules, and allow draft pick trading. It's not exactly realistic, but it does make my saves more enjoyable. As you can see from the front office here, the reason I picked the Tampa Bay Rays this season is because they have a relatively small market size and budget, but an interesting prospect list to play around with right from the start. The first thing that I'll do when I take a look at my organization is look for the pitching staff and positional players to get an idea of where my main weaknesses are and where I can improve in terms of bringing up prospects from my minor league farm teams. As we can see here, the Rays have a couple of tantalizing young prospects who I will definitely be bringing up in the next season or two and using on my major league team. When looking to build a dynasty, I focus on 4 main components. The first of which is to use the free agent market in the offseason to stack your minor league team. Not just the AAA team and the AA team, but every single farm team you have in your organization. You can do this by following the direction that I'm laying out on the screen. Click on the 3, 2.5, and 2-star potential players that are listed in the offseason free agency and simply sign them to minor league contracts. This will make your farm system much stronger, allowing your personnel, for instance managers, hitting coaches, pitching coaches, etc. in your minor league teams develop their skills as well as their team wins more and more games. The second step is to control your contracts. When I first saw Brandon Lowe, I thought, wow, a franchise second baseman who I can build my entire team around. And then I saw his contract and almost spit out my coffee. The same goes for Kevin Kiermaier. While this player is a fan favorite and undoubtedly is one of the best defenders in the game, his contract cannot be justified. It is better to deal these players. And watch just how I do it. When making trades, especially with prospects, I of course take into consideration their overall and potential ability by virtue of their stars listed by the scouting network. However, I find their stats and their metrics to be just as important, so I always dive into their overview page and their contract page to make sure I'm not missing anything. I also take into account their personality and their scouting report to see if they have a high potential to actually hit their full ability. The same thing goes for when trading my own players. In every deal that I make, I attempt to get the best return possible no matter what I'm shipping off, whether that be a package deal or a single relief pitcher who's 34 years old, declining, and has no option years remaining on their contract. So what I look for are draft picks and Rule 5 eligible players that are quickly identified by their hashtag or number symbol that's next to their name in the prospect list. It's critical that you're always attempting to build your top prospect list. And you can check this at the start of every season by looking at the top farm systems, which is what I'm doing right now. The Tampa Bay Rays is number 2, and from each season moving forward, I'd like to stay within the top 5. It doesn't stop with me. I enjoy wheeling and dealing. I need to make sure that, like I said before, I focus on the team-controlled contract years. So that means that looking for contracts that are not about to expire, looking for contracts that have a long-term value to me, and anybody that's on my team that has an expiring deal or a very high arbitration hit, I'm going to look to dish off. And even if it means taking a hit in the player current ability or even potential ability that I'm getting in return, I like to ensure that my team is at least cheap if it's not going to be good. The worst thing that you can do is build an expensive team that's losing ball games, because it's going to really hurt your team in the long term. The only exception to this would be eating contracts that are about to expire from other teams in return for a top prospect or a draft pick. As you can see from the screens here, I'm attempting to essentially dump my expiring deals or my team controlled years that are sort of out of control in the case of Brandon Lowe and in Kevin Kiermaier, and in return you can see just the strides I've made already. I've got way more money for free agents and extensions, and allows me much more flexibility moving forward. Checking my organizational depth page allows me to see that although I've dealt most of my major contracts off, I'm still fielding a fairly competitive team. I'm showing this trade for James Paxton because it appears to contradict what I've been saying so far in this video. Even though Joey Wendell is younger and better contract, I pick up James Paxton because his value is much higher, and I believe that Wendell is a player that will be out of the majors within the next 2 seasons. In this particular case, I see James Paxton as a more valuable asset in the trade market than Joey Wendell next season. Take careful note of my first year player draft. As you can see, my tactic of building a large reservoir of draft picks is coming to fruition. I have a multitude of picks within the first 5 rounds of the draft. This allows me to pick up many young stars who I will have under team control for as long as possible. After you do the draft, I like to create a draft shortlist. This is where I put all my drafted players and allows me the opportunity to see where the growth is happening. I like to make sure my development budget is as high as possible throughout the seasons. This helps in creating an environment where my players that are drafted actually end up playing AAA or on my big league team and offer themselves as great assets for trade bait in other future trades. You can see here that I only have 1 player left on my team that is not under team control next season. The rest of them are, even though some of them are on the higher end of arbitration. That's okay, because I still control their contracts, and I can move them towards the end of their contract should I need to. Although I didn't make the playoffs this season, my prospect pool is looking significantly better. Here you can see the off-season salary arbitration. This is also a critical point in any season. You want to make sure that you're not getting fleeced in arbitration. It's better to offer a player more money in their arbitration so that you know the team wins over the player. I'd rather pay James Paxton, for instance, 12 or 12.5 million and win arbitration than to offer up 11 and have to pay something like 14.5 or 15 million. That couple million can be the difference between getting a good return on James Paxton and getting a terrible return. I also want you to take a look at the free agent market in terms of international free agents, not your MLB free agents. The reason being, when you sign an MLB free agent, you lose a draft pick, and that draft pick goes to the other team in their supplemental draft round, so just after the first round. So here we can see myself looking at the international free agents and realizing, wow, there's one that I want, and I can make it fit within the structure of my team. And the wheeling and dealing begins. Look at the return that I'm getting for someone like Tommy Pham. A top relief pitcher, a first and second round draft pick in exchange for an aging left fielder on a fairly large contract, a prospect starting pitcher, and a middle of the road relief pitcher. At some point, you're going to have to realize that dishing players that you like or that fit your team mold is simply a necessary evil. In this case, I have to trade someone like Matt Duffy and James Paxton, who are fan favorites and important cogs on my team at this point in the save. The thing is, my team didn't make the playoffs, and I know that in my next season, I want to make the playoffs and potentially even make a splash by going all the way to the finals. Sometimes, the only way to do that is to make deals that won't be popular with the fans. But who cares, because they're not actually real. If you're following step 3, which is to build your team through the draft and using organizational depth and free agent prospects to build your team, you need to clean the bottom ends of your organization of all the half, 1-star, and 1.5-star potential players. Doing so ensures that your team consistently stays competitive and pushes your younger prospects to improve their own skills. Be careful with the players that you release for free. You may be able to get something in return if you attempt to trade them. Do not forget to go to the front office screen before the winter meetings end. Here, you can adjust your season ticket prices for the next year and adjust your scouting and development budgets to what is appropriate for your team moving forward. You may have a little bit of money left after signing free agents, but don't go and blow that all in 1 year. You want to slowly increase the development and scouting budget in order to set your team up for future success. In just 1 season and 2 off seasons, I've dramatically altered this team. Yes, the core is now gone. However, the team is built to win. I've got strong starting pitching, significantly improved relief pitching, and I now have reliable and consistent positional players as well as utility players to ensure that my team can play with a winning record this season and make a push for the playoffs. I still may need to make a couple of trades, and that's okay. Knowing that you can tinker your team while having the bulk of the core in place is an important and stress-free mindset that you can approach the season with. You may have missed it while I was reviewing my lineup screen, but I executed my 4th and most important tip I can give you to build a dynasty, and that is to sign international free agents as opposed to major league free agents. It will save you a lot of money, and it won't cost you your first-round draft pick in the next season. That's critically important, because as you can see by looking at my organizational depth and at my prospects, my team is ready to compete, both now and in the future. This is reflected in MLB's official farm ranking. I have several top draft picks, not just in the top 100, but actually in the top 10. And hey, if you live in the UK and certain adult sites are banned, you can just return to this video and watch as I make 5 first-round draft picks in addition to several other second and third-round draft picks to make this team a contender in the years to come. Like I mentioned a moment ago, being stress-free is critical in allowing yourself to make clear and concise trades. Like this one, I'm tinkering at the trade deadline. This is really the only deal I've had to make all season because I set up my team properly. Javi Baez is a major upgrade at a fairly cheap price when you consider what he's being traded for. And hey, we did it. We made it all the way to the end of the season. Not a great record, but good enough to get me into the playoffs. And here's the most satisfying part of this game: setting up your playoff roster and giving those players the opportunity to win a World Series. They might not do it this season, but I know the way I've built this team, I'll be buying World Series rings for these boys before I know it. Hey guys, thanks for making it this far into the video. I appreciate the support. If you enjoy watching Twitch, I stream almost daily over on my Twitch channel. I'll leave a link down in the description. You can come check me out anytime. Once again, thanks for watching and all the best in your save.